Hello everyone, welcome to the Perfection Week series, and we are privileged of God to have our daddy again in the studio. Welcome, sir.
Hello, bless you.
It's a privilege to have you once again, sir.
Thank you for having me.
All right, sir. What can you say to young ministers about ministers and marriage? We've seen God's mighty hand upon your marriage, upon your family, mommy on fire, the children on fire. What can you say to young ministers or ministers about that? Maybe one of the principles you learned, prophecies you have, and the practices that make you go a barrack for the Lord.
Okay, we thank God. I believe that no one receives anything except it's given from above. John 3:27. So I believe that what you might call a happy is a gift from the Lord. So, and when something is a gift, you just thank God for it. That's a gift. However, there are principles. Apostle Paul said to Timothy, he said, because of the prophecies ahead of you, these are the things you have to put in place so that you will not shipwreck your faith. I believe that the major principle of marriage is in Ephesians chapter 5. Husband, love your wife as Christ loved the church and gave himself for her. Wives, be submissive to your own husband as unto the Lord. That is the basic principle. Of course, in the 21st century, there have been so many proofs here and there against that principle. The reality is that nothing can be done against the scriptures. So, the first principle is the first thing is this is a gift from God. The second thing is the principle of the marriage covenant principle. Husband, this is your spiritual responsibility. Wife, this is your spiritual responsibility. And in the context, if your children eventually makes you do that, you will see that that will translate to whatsoever they are going to follow after. However, your definition of each of those things are very critical. Because sometimes you say somebody find a good wife according to Proverbs, it says he that finds a spouse, and I think the better read that scripture as a spouse rather than a wife. Because a man is finding a woman, a woman is also finding a man. So that will say you obtain favor from God. But how do you manage favor? Because if you don't manage favor well, it will become good. So it is wisdom that you manage the favor of God in the confines of the testimony of the scriptures. Then with maturity, I see. And you should understand that marriage is also in stages. I think many times people want to stay on stage one. So in my little teaching, sometimes I say that there is the romantic side of marriage. Let's call that the first phase. Now, that's the I love you, and all this stuff, and then. But you move from romantics to realities. When you get to realities, people used to think that reality does not. The realities are, they bring along the challenges of marriage. And when you meet reality, you don't run away from reality, you face realities. So when you get to realities, the man who has been romantic will be realistic. The woman who has been romantic shall be realistic. So if both of you face reality, you move to what is called adjustment.
Wow.
So at the stage of adjustment, you are adjusting, just like I think the language should rather be adaptability. When a fish finds itself inside water, it adapted. When man finds himself on the land, he adapted. I don't even think Nigerians should have probably adapt because it's our second nature. You adapt. When Adam found himself in the garden, he adapted. So there's that adaptation which I call adjustment. And then from that adjustment, you now go to stability.
Wow.
you are becoming relativistic because now you have moved from reality to adjustment, and then you are now becoming stable. A child does not start working immediately. He balances and balances, and all of a sudden he balances. It is after, and that stability you now move to what you might call marital bliss. So, but for you to think that you jump from romantic to bliss, it's a process. So wanting to avoid process is the challenge people have. Because sometimes people are talking about what you are going through in marriage, they will think you didn't pass through that. But they are just the realities of life. Of course, marriage doesn't have problems, only has challenges. And challenges are realities of life that confront a man demanding the righteous response.
Wow. Demanding a righteous response.
So when you meet a reality, did you respond righteously? That's what. If I cannot pay school fees and I went to go Ashewo, I will still meet somebody who didn't pay school fees but didn't do Ashewo. That means I didn't respond righteously. So challenges are realities of life that confront everyone and you are demanding righteousness. Marriage have challenges. The Bible says the person who built his house on the rock and the one who built his house on the water. Both of them face the same thing. So just rock. It calls for wisdom, it calls for maturity, it calls for prayerfulness. Then it tests your discipleship status. Because I believe that if two disciples of Christ marry, they're supposed to be able to make hope. Because all the principles of discipleship will now be tested inside marriage. So,
thank you, sir, for that profound contributions. And we believe this is going to bless a lot of families out there. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
It is well with you.